Bit of a different video, this one. I thought instead of me just recording myself to camera, I'd show you the lovely scenery where I am at the moment. And yeah, just reflect on a few things that have happened over the year, kind of where we are, and also what's happening in the last week or so. So it's coming up to pretty much a year since I did the first vlog. And if you guys remember, I was staying at my folks' because like many people, I'm struggling to save up to buy my own place. So I've been living at my folks for just over a year, and obviously moved out because they were shielding because of the pandemic. And you know, a year on, this is where I find myself now, on the beautiful coast here, sort of 100 or so miles from where I did that first vlog, and this is where I'm living at the moment. And I thought I'd share with you some of the nice scenery here. And I've actually stolen this concept from a few people that have kind of electric skateboard type things, and they want to talk about what's happening while they share their surroundings. The first thing really to talk about, I think, on my last vlog was one of the hardest ones I've done, where I talked about where we had a death of a colleague in our hospital. And really on that, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone that's written such lovely comments on that video. That really meant a lot, and I felt like it gave a lot of other people an opportunity to reflect on maybe what healthcare professionals are going through, but also maybe what they're going through too. I think we're coming up to around about 1,000 healthcare professionals have died in the UK, so it's a story that many people up and down the country will be experiencing. And I mean, not just in healthcare as well. You know, the deaths in the UK are now approaching 120,000, which is a staggering amount. And I know there's talk about how we define a COVID death, but whichever way you look at it, I don't think we've done a particularly good job. It's easy to blame the powers higher up, so the government's approach to this. I mean, particularly because in some ways in the first wave, you can kind of forgive a lot of bad decisions, but to have a second wave once arguably we know so much more, it's a lot more difficult to forgive that. And it's difficult as well talking about these type of things, because you kind of want to do optimistic videos and you want to talk about the positive things. And you know, that's all true. Like in the hour to hour when we're at work in medicine, we're extremely kind of resilient. We're almost bred to focus on the positive things. So even when someone comes in with a really difficult diagnosis, obviously we're sensitive to that. But we also talk about what we can do. That's what we focus on as doctors. We say, look, we're going to manage this, we're going to try this, we have these options available. And that's always kind of what we're bred to talk about. But it's difficult to present that optimism out as a kind of public health thing when you're dealing with those kind of numbers of people who have died. So it's a really weird kind of contrast with kind of the pride that you see people have done, like people around you have just, you know, risen up to the challenge and done the best we can. But then also the optimism is kind of short-lived, because, you know, the result has been, you know, devastating for so many people. So this is a nice little part of the ride there that's cool. Bits of graffiti and coming onto the sands here. So I want to just mention some of the positive things that have been happening in the news over the last kind of week or so. We've had record numbers applying to both medicine and nursing, which I think we had a similar thing when we were at war, where we had like the Iraq war and things, as people signed up to the army, because, you know, at its heart, people see how much healthcare systems mean to people. So that's really encouraging that it's had this positive response. And, you know, we need you. If you're kind of thinking of going into nursing or any kind of healthcare jobs, yeah, we really do need people with that kind of drive. And we'll welcome you in. As much as that's a really positive story, we also have to think about retention. That's the big problem. Clearly, with these numbers, there's something that people want to do. They want to go into healthcare. So why are we short? And that's because people are leaving healthcare. That's because, you know, the reality of when we do it, the treatment could be a lot better. The job satisfaction and the kind of work-life balance, that's what we need to focus on. And that's much more important, right? Because it takes so long to train people, and not just the training, it's that experience you can't teach. And once they leave, all that experience goes. It doesn't matter how many people you recruit, you need to keep the current workforce motivated and keep them happy. And in some other good news, it appears that the vaccine may be effective at reducing transmission. And I can't stress this enough, this is very early evidence, very small studies that, you know, we really don't know the full answer at the moment. But encouraging anyway. And it also just highlights how difficult it is to find out this information, because obviously transmission has lots of factors that affect it. You know, things like social distancing, lockdown, wearing your masks, how that is also impacting transmission. We can't tell if that's down to the vaccines or not, but I think as doctors we expect it to happen. I mean, just from first principles, if the vaccine stops symptoms, which we know it does, you know, people are more likely to spread the virus if they have symptoms because they're coughing and putting those particles into the air. But obviously some people can spread the virus that don't have symptoms. So, you know, we do need to find out this evidence, and that will come in time. We don't work on expectations as doctors. We have to communicate exactly what is known at the time. And I think that is also why we kind of lose out to some of the conspiracy theorists, because I've seen lots of people latch on to the idea that, you know, we don't know that it reduces transmission. So they'll say, well, it doesn't then, therefore it doesn't reduce transmission. And they would argue, well, it's really bad, right, if it doesn't reduce transmission, because all it's doing is, you know, creating more silent spreaders. Well, we actually don't know the information, so there's no point spreading that when, you know, we don't know, they don't know. So why should we then, you know, why is the burden of proof on us? We should both be just communicating exactly what we know at any point. So it'd be interesting to know if we do find out that it does significantly reduce transmission, if all these people that have been spreading the information that that's a downside, if they'll start doing videos about vaccines being a good thing. I very much doubt it. So I had a really good chat yesterday with an orthopedic surgeon in Canada, Dr Chris Raynor, on his Instagram Live. So I'll leave a link down below if you want to check that out. We talk a lot about being YouTube doctors and a bit about COVID too. So it's quite long, about an hour. So if you fancy just kicking back and listening to two doctors from other sides of the Atlantic ramble a bit, go check that out. So I'm just coming to a nice part of the bay here. We just went past some of the Coast Guard doing some training, that's why it's kind of cordoned off there. I was going to stop and find out what they're doing, but they'll probably tell me off for doing something. So we're coming to the end of the ride here. Take you to this part of the beach. The last thing I want to talk about is something funny actually. Did anyone see the man in a hospital bed that wasn't a man in the hospital bed? I'll leave a link down below, but this is like, I think some rapper or musician got themselves made out of cake, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it looks exactly like them, and it even kind of makes my skin crawl a bit, and this is coming from a doctor, right? Because they kind of chopped off his legs to show that he was in fact cake. And I mean, it was remarkably realistic. That's why it was so weird to look at. But that was kind of the weird story of the week, I think. So here we are, coming to the end of the ride. Beautiful part of the bay here. You can see in the shadow here how I'm recording this with a giant selfie stick. Doesn't look in reality quite as cool as maybe it looks on camera. So there you have it, everyone, just a little update on your Sunday. I hope you've had a good week, and I'll catch up with you soon.